Chapter 1. The Founding of the Enclave. A city forged from magic and vision. It began with an empty stretch of land, untouched by great cities, unmarred by history's wars, waiting to be shaped into something entirely new. Aldrich stood at the heart of it, surrounded by mages who had learned from his teachings, summoners who had mastered the art of creation, architects and scholars who had arrived not to claim territory by force, but to carve their legacy through magic itself. They would not build by hand. They would shape their capital from mana, forging stone, weaving energy, crafting structures not through chisels and labor, but through spells woven with precision, vision, and mastery. And today, they would name it the birth of the Enclave. The name had been debated, discussed, passed between voices as the first towers rose from the earth, crystal spires gleaming under the blue light of arcane energy. But in the end, it was Aldrich who spoke it into existence. Voice steady, gaze unwavering.
We will call it the Enclave.
A sanctuary, a beacon, a home where summoners would craft their future, where magic would be perfected, where knowledge would never fade into obscurity again. The halls would be lined with velvety sapphire. The floors would be polished stone, reflecting the light of floating orbs that pulsed with mana. The spires would stretch high into the heavens, marking their presence upon the world, ensuring all could see the legacy they were forging. And now, the summoners were no longer just students of magic. They were builders, rulers, architects of something far greater than mere spells. They were a faction now. And the Enclave was their capital, their throne, their legacy in stone and mana alike. The Enclave's growth, a 400-year masterpiece. The Enclave was not built overnight. It was shaped over centuries, refined by generations of summoners, expanded with every innovation, woven with mana, until it was a marvel unlike anything else in Echoris. From its first stone foundation to its final towering spires, every corner of the Enclave carried purpose, beauty, and precision, ensuring that when the war for the mountain came, the world would know exactly what the summoners had created. The first century, establishing the core. The Grand Hall of Summoning, the heart of the Enclave, the place where familiars were born, where students gathered to shape the future of their craft, its floors polished to reflect the mana woven into its walls. The azure gardens, enchanted pools and waterways flowed through courtyards, allowing summoners to study water manipulation, purification, and essence binding. The air always smelled of fresh rain, even beneath the sun. The Crystal Archives, a library unlike any other, filled with etched records of every spell ever studied, bound into enchanted crystal tablets that whispered their knowledge when touched. The Forge of Sparks, a place where mana powered mechanisms, ensuring light flowed through the streets without need for torches, where arcane engineers crafted ever-burning lamps, pressure systems, and constructs bound to magic itself. During this century, the Enclave was purely academic, a place for knowledge, discovery, and refinement. But that would not last forever. The second century, expansion and influence. The Velvet Halls, expanding into luxurious but controlled spaces, deep blue carpets stretching across meeting chambers, noble summoners gathering to discuss the direction of their faction, no longer just students, but rulers of the West. The Square of Contracts. Familiars were no longer summoned just for companionship, but for duty, bound to their masters with formal contracts, etched into mana stone and reviewed before being finalized. The Silver Gates. Once the Enclave was established as the capital of magic, its borders were marked by grand silver archways, adorned with etched names of every summoner who contributed to its rise, ensuring that even in death they would be remembered. By this era, the Enclave was not just a city for learning, it was the foundation of a faction, an empire, something that commanded respect far beyond its walls. But with power came attention. The 3rd century, the shadow of conflict. The hall of deliberation. Magic was no longer purely academic, it was political. Disputes over the ethics of binding, over how magic should be used, over whether summoning should be controlled. Summoners debated fiercely, some believing in Aldrich's vision, others seeking more autonomy, more control, more dominance. The armory of woven steel, summoners, once peaceful scholars, now considered battle, forging weapons infused with mana, creating familiars designed for combat, not companionship. This was the first sign of the inevitable war that would come. The sealed chambers, hidden beneath the Enclave, secret rooms were locked away, holding forbidden knowledge, experiments that tested the limits of summoning itself, research that Aldrich never intended to exist. The Enclave was no longer just a beacon of progress. It was a force, one that rulers began to fear, to question, to watch carefully. The final century, the path to war, the preparations for the mountain conflict. The Enclave had become a city like no other, but the world was changing, the factions beginning to position themselves for the coming battle. The rise of the next generation. Aldrich had long since passed, and the summoners were no longer just scholars. They were leaders, commanding armies, forging alliances, standing as masters of their craft, preparing for the moment when they would shape the war with their magic. The war chambers. Deep in the heart of the Enclave, maps were laid out, discussions of how the summoners would take their place in the war, how their magic would alter the course of Ekorus forever. The war was coming, and the Enclave was ready for it. Final chapter. The Last Flight of Drala, a creature without its master. Drala had always been bound to Aldrich, not just by magic, but by understanding, by the quiet balance he had provided, keeping her tethered to this world, to sanity, to purpose. But now he was gone. And with his absence, something inside her fractured, the connection unraveling, the last thread of her bond to this realm weakening with every passing day. She was larger now, no longer the tiny bat perched upon his shoulder, but something wilder, something untamed, something far too great to belong among mortals anymore. And in her talons, nestled against her chest, she carried the very thing that had begun it all. The orb, pulsing faintly, whispering memories Aldrich could no longer hear. The journey south, a flight into oblivion. Drala did not remain in the Enclave. She did not linger in the halls where her creator's name was still spoken with reverence, remembrance, grief. She flew. Beyond the fields, beyond the rivers, beyond the mountains where war would soon rage, beyond all civilization, pressing deep into the forgotten lands, the haunted ruins where only the necromancers dared to tread. And there, amid the crumbling remnants of the past, among the shattered halls where whispers of old magic clung to the air, she found it. The place where Aldrich had first uncovered the orb. The place where his journey had truly begun. The place where magic itself had first revealed its secrets to him. And without hesitation, she buried it, sealing away the past. Her talons scraped against the stone, pressing deep, ensuring the orb vanished into the earth, ensuring that no hand, mortal or mage, would ever find it again. The ruins trembled beneath her weight. The walls cracked, the dust stirred. And in her last moments, she let go, wings stretching, breath unsteady, mana flickering in the air around her like embers fading into the wind. She did not wish to exist without Aldrich. She did not wish to see what magic would become, what summoning would turn into, how the world would twist the knowledge her creator had once seen as pure. So she collapsed the ruin. Stone shattered, the ground trembled, the echoes of her final presence sealing both herself and the orb away. And just like that, Drala was gone. Her life, her bond, her existence buried beneath the very place where magic itself had first been uncovered. And the world moved forward, unaware that deep beneath the earth, lost in the remnants of ancient halls, the first artifact of mana still pulsed faintly, waiting in silence, untouched, unseen, forgotten. The end of Aldrich's legacy, the beginning of a new era. The summoners had claimed the West. The Enclave stood tall, powerful, undeniable. But Aldrich's final tether to this world had vanished, and now his students, his followers, his kingdom would move forward without him. And soon, magic itself would begin shifting into something far beyond what he had ever imagined.